I don't see why Anderson and Broad's departure would cause such a decline in the England batting stocks. It's the lack of performance from Duckett, Pope, inconsistent performance from um,
No, but
Crawley.
When Broad was there, Raj, and I'm not saying it's a correlation or I'm trying to compare, but when in the end of their careers, when McCallum took over and baseball was working, and people said it's a new theory. The same theory is falling flat.
Yeah, because see, other sides also learn. Other sides also come back. I think if you look at England's, I'll come back to the question of whether baseball is dead. Baseball could survive if England copied some of the previous sides and how they coped well in Australia. Because it was always about mindset.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to a Sunday show of Round the Clock Cricket with Sudeep. Other experts, unfortunately, are not available right now. And we have our special expert from Australia, Raj, back on the show. We had Raj before the WTC final, and I think just before the Ashes, we had him once also. So good to see you, Raj, back in our show.
Thanks, Rahul. And hi, Sudeep. Thank you so
Hi,
much for
good
having me
morning, Raj.
back.
Yeah.
Great to have you
The
back,
first,
in our show.
yeah, that as usual. So, Raj, my not a question, just a thought on England 0-3. Your first thoughts.
Uh, First thoughts are that it was a tale of two sides, one severely underperformed and one severely outperformed. I don't think they were, I don't think Australia, if you look at it under the lens, except for the brilliance of, say, someone like Travis Head in the batting department, Alex Carey in the wicket keeping and batting department. He's the second highest run scorer in this series so far with 4 innings only. He's outperformed Steve Smith, Manish Labuschagne. He's outperformed the big wigs. So there were some tremendous performances by the Australian batting side, very poor performance from the England bowling side. If you look at Stark and Boland, they alone secured something like 33 wickets in this three test match series so far, which which means they outbowled the entire English side. And a big stalwart like Nathan Lyon has only garnered 5 wickets. He's injured now. He
And
missed
out
out
of the
one.
series. Yeah, he's probably out of the
Yeah,
series. Yeah.
and he missed out one test match. But the way Australia is, they will keep him as long as they can keep him, and they will give him opportunities to come back, just like Pat Cummins has come back. Proper man management, you know, it's the people side of things which Australia did really well. And my first thoughts are basically that since 2022, when McCullum was appointed as coach, Stokes was appointed as captain a month before him. They have the result now, 3.5 years later, that their style of cricket worked like a flash in the pan. It is not consistent because you got to do the basics well. Because if you look at what did Australia do well, they held on to their catches better, they bowled tighter spells, they built partnerships, uh, they out baseballed England in Australia. So England did not read the conditions well.
Before I allow Sudeep, before I move on to Sudeep, my question, Raj, two or three now questions. This was your thoughts. Isha Guha yesterday on Fox Sports said that this England Australian side can be beaten, is a beatable side, which we almost saw in the Border Gavaskar Trophy. Little of inexperience and we lost it. Do you think this English side, this baseball, is not working because not of the weak bowling attack, which cannot take 20 wickets, or do you think it's a mismanagement on part of McCallum? And my question is very clear. Is it a mismanaged theory? Is it a theory now people are saying is a wrong theory? Is it a theory like Douglas Jardin's theory of bodyline was a show stopping theory. It was not a theory to progress cricket. Do you think this baseball, which is very attractive, a lot of guests have come in our show and said it's attractive. None of them vouched for it. And now we can surely say that this is not a theory. You are losing test matches in longish grounds, which our other experts have also pointed. I have also said that in shortish grounds with batting condition, batting friendly pitches in England, you can go through baseball still the weakest bowling attack in the last 40 years. Do you think my questions are two? One, is the theory foolproof or it can be continued in any other country or is it a fallacious theory? One. And two, Anderson and Broad going, is that the point when baseball should have been stopped? Over to you, Raj.
Because baseball has been about mainly batting. So I don't see why Anderson and Broad's departure would cause such a decline in the England batting stocks. It's the lack of performance from Duckett, Pope, inconsistent performance from Crawley.
But when Broad was there, Raj, and I'm not saying it's a correlation or I'm trying to compare, but when in the end of their careers, when McCallum took over and baseball was working, and people said it's a new theory. The same theory is falling flat.
Yeah, because see, other sides also learn, other sides also come back. I think if you look at England's, I'll come back to the question of whether baseball is dead. Baseball could survive if England copied some of the previous sides and how they coped well in Australia. Because it was always about mindset. If I take this audience back to 2003 when India was touring Australia under the stewardship of Saurav Ganguly and under Jagmohan Dalmia being the BCCI president, they managed to come here, play two preparatory games against a Victorian 11 and against, I think it was a Queensland 11 of some sort, before the Brisbane Test match in which Ganguly scored a brilliant, I think 150 or something in his second innings. So performance can only come on the basis of preparation. It's the essence of sport. It's the essence of elite sport. You can't go in on talk. And England's baseball ended up being all about talk. If you look at who played in the Prime Minister's against the Prime Minister's 11 for England,
there's been a lot of talk on that.
Yeah, so they did not give that because that's a pink ball match. They did not give enough importance to that match style preparation, the match, like a simulation. They instead went and did whatever they did in the beach somewhere in New South Wales, I think. So I think their priorities were all wrong, and there was a lot of overconfidence, a lot of dependency on Root, a lot of dependency on Stokes. I mean, they are human after all.
I'm just interrupting. Today morning, BBC and Guardian, I've posted that in Facebook. They're saying that Duckett's failure is a big failure. They expected Duckett to score very fast. So, I mean, that's basketball basically. You open and you score 200, 250, 300 in a day so that you give your bowlers a time. Now, whether the bowlers can do, we will discuss in the second part. The first part is the opening pair. And Crawley, I think, has played his last for England. I'm not sure. Ollie Pope, I'm sure. So, what is your take on Duckett? Because Duckett, everyone said, should score 200 in a day. That is the type of player he is, and that is why he was at the top.
I mean, look, on the basis of this performance, the first question mark should be on Ben Stokes' captaincy. But because he's so well liked, he's probably the only leader. I don't see him playing under the captaincy of anyone else, unlike Joe Root, for example. I don't see him, losing his position. There might be question marks on Ollie Pope and Ben Duckett. And Ben Duckett was the biggest surprise because, given the fact of his height, uh, Zach Crawley is much taller, and for an opener in Australia where the pitches are
Australia,
a lot
correct.
more bouncy, you would
Correct.
imagine that Crawley took time to adjust, whereas Ben Duckett would be a lot more comfortable. That's why I think India missed a trick by not being consistent with Sarfaraz in Australia and picking other non-batsmen to all-rounders to play in the Test side, which proved to be the undoing of Indian, the Border Gavaskar Trophy, bid. So I think Duckett's position, it's more about, let's look at his preparation. It's never about, at elite levels, it's never about their capability. It's more about their preparation and mindset. And I think if they put that under the scanner, then McCullum is the first person whose position is most severely under threat at the moment.
Unless, I mean, of course, you have to deliver. In sports, you have to deliver. So the second part, I mean, Asball, we all know that Australia is the pioneer. I mean, what you guys play, 3.5, 4, even in this test match, Australia is faster than England. So my question is, the second part, that if Basball has worked, then you don't have bowlers, you are giving them time. You're scoring 400 maybe in a day, then you give them 3 days to get 20 wickets. So where is the 20 wickets coming? Isn't the bowling also a huge problem for England to back the baseball if baseball was working?
Yeah. It was. Look, this contest was, even if you look at the recording of the earlier discussion I was part of, it's saying it was always about the English batting versus the Australian bowling. But what ended up happening was similar to what happened to Australia against India when India won here with Kohli leaving after the Adelaide Test match, and a ragtag Indian side ended up winning in Melbourne and in
Melbourne,
the Gabba.
yeah.
Now Australia had that kind of a ragtag bowling attack, with Boland, who's at best been a part-time bowler. He could squeeze out 11 wickets in his 3 Test matches so far. But to look at Mitchell Starc, I mean, his has been, for me, the performance of not only this Ashes, but I would say an Australian side which is severely depleted, except for Cummins came back and in real style and took, I think, 6 wickets in this Test match. Mitchell Starc's performance to take the workload, be the opening bowler, which he normally doesn't bowl such long spells as he has bowled in this sort of series, has been phenomenal. So I think that it undid what Bazball can do, because again, if you look at Bazball's success, it was in England. Outside of England, in India, in Pakistan, I think they lost in Pakistan 2-1. They weren't able to perform. And I dare say that right now, Australia is a far more competitive side. If they are touring the subcontinent, they'll give India a tough, matchup.
In the later part of 26, they're going to play 5 Test matches.
Yeah, so it will be a much more closer series than in the past, because India is on the down and Australia is on the rise so far. So Australian batsmen have a lot more clue and idea about playing in Indian conditions. They're a lot more, again, focused from a mindset perspective.
So what do you think, the second part of my question, Raj, England bowling after Broad and Anderson, why? I mean, see, we had, after Kohli and, of course, Pujara's place, we are yet to fill up. That's a problem with Agarkar and Gambhir. And that is where the discussion on Gambhir comes. But England losing out Cass, Tongue, Overton, I mean, all these bowlers are average. Tongue a little better maybe, but these 5 bowlers, Archer, of course, Wood is a very big question, which I'll ask you later in the show. So 5, 6 bowlers ready for them are not good enough. Even combined, collectively good enough for half of Broad or maybe 1/3 of Anderson. So why do you think is England suffering so much in the bowling department now? Why not Bashir? Also a big question.
Yeah, because they need Test level exposure, consistency first they need the right preparation to reach the test side. Once they get to the test side, they need backing. I mean, that's one of the reasons why, if you look at India with Bumrah and Siraj, if that combination gets missed now, India has nothing to go back to. So same thing for England with Wood probably being brought back from injury slightly prematurely, not having those performances, which is what begs the question. Which is why, like any great cricketing side needs those top three fast bowlers, which in Stark, Cummins, Hazelwood, Australia has been getting so consistently. England had that with Broad and Anderson. To replace such talent is not easy, unfortunately. It needs time. You need match practice. You need learning on the job. It's like these Atkinson and Tung and sorry, who else?
Cars or
Yeah,
what?
Cast. Uh, like Cast was the best England bowler in this series so far. He didn't get any support. He didn't get any support from his fellow bowlers. They were inconsistent. So they are like a team full of fresh graduates. You can't expect that they will step up so immediately. It takes a few tours, but to do it for the Ashes is also difficult because it's like this, um, cauldron-like atmosphere with the sound, with the noise, the crowd expectations. It's a very difficult environment to come in and perform in.
Here the question comes that India has a good pool of players. T20, of course, the best, but in even Test, there's a very good pool coming up. See the NCA and the Ranji structure and the domestic structure. IPL also contributing. So we'll not go into the controversy of whether IPL contributes more or the Ranji. But now the players are forced to play Ranji according to BCCI after the New Zealand and South Africa debacle. We had a guest, an English cricketer, Roland Butcher, in our show, the English perspective. He said a very good point. He made the point that the county is itself now not producing good cricketers. So that is where there's a problem. Do you think that's the problem where the England bowling is not up to the mark after Anderson Broad?
Yeah, it's a two-way process. One is that the conditions and the grounds in different geographies, whether it's a subcontinent, whether it's England, whether it's Australia, it produces a certain style of cricket. And to replicate that when you go to other, geographies and other environments and climates, is not, frankly, not very easy. Look, there are players who throw caution to the wind, like a Travis Head. I reckon he will bat like this in England. He will bat like this in India. He will bat like this in Australia, and he will get the confidence and the backing from his team. In India produced a player like Travis Head in Sehwag, but how much backing did he get? Even in the series we're talking about in 2003, he got his opportunities and he took them and he performed brilliantly. And along with Akash Chopra, put up some great opening stands, which India has missed, I think, ever since. So people management, man management overtakes the mindset and overtakes the conditions people are used to if they're given the backing. One of the standout performances in Australia was again that 2003 Indian side with a very young Parthiv Patel keeping wickets and a very young Irfan Pathan bowling to Steve Waugh. And now Steve Waugh's age was more than the combined age of Parthiv Patel and Irfan Pathan put together. And I remember one particular inning in which Steve Waugh was caught behind. So that stood out in my mind, So it's about the players feeling that they are being backed. And I think McCullum does that well. He backed, but it should not be a foolhardy enterprise where they don't have a Rahul Dravid in their side who can hold one end of the innings. Joe Root could play that role, but he's not.
So you were saying the structure, the pool is not good enough. That's also what you're saying. The pool in county is not good enough. The next level is not there. But that's my question to you. Why is There's no bowler. Why are there no substitutes to broad? I mean, they're generation bowlers, but at least one like a Siraj, like a Prasidh Krishna. I'm not saying Prasidh Krishna is still there, but India seems to be throwing up substitutes. Why can England throw up substitutes?
Look, first is sheer numbers. India has a lot more people, so sheer numbers. Secondly, the motivation to play cricket for an average English teenager. If they do it, they do it. If they don't do it, there's other options. Well, the English economy isn't doing too well right now, but
That's the
traditionally,
point.
in
Yeah.
India, it becomes a matter of life and death. So England cannot produce someone, like Yashasvi Jaiswal, who has come from literally nothing with some backing. He's still a fairy tale in the making. It can't produce a Rishabh Pant because they don't have that hunger. They don't have the drive. Like somebody's parent is traveling with the kid 40 kilometers in a bus with their kid bag. In England, they will drive them in their car. They don't have to do that. It's a very different framework. So you can't expect English cricket to be as prolific. But the grassroots level coaching is what differentiates it. Like in India, the grassroots level coaching
That's what I'm
standard.
trying to find out.
Yeah. In
County is
England, it
not
is.
producing good players. Counties are not like your Sheffield Shield. Your Sheffield Shield has some very good players. I'm just following Cameron, Hallway. There are a lot of
Yeah.
players coming up.
So
I mean,
I'll give you one example of a champion cricketer's mindset. Before coming to Australia, I think this was back in the 99 series when Tendulkar was the top scorer in the series in Australia. He was getting people to bowl at him on a wet concrete pitch in Bombay from a short distance. So if a cricketer wants, like Tendulkar had to improvise, be very creative. Nowadays, I don't think cricketers can do that. They won't do that anymore. Everything is about social media and perception rather than the real performance on the pitch. So when people were saying, "Oh, Joe Root is the best in the world, he's the best, he's better than Tendulkar," he is not. Because mindset makes the difference. Because that's his individual application right now in Australia is lacking. Because if he couldn't score runs, he couldn't also hold one end of the pitch and let somebody else do the baseball. It's like he has to do the baseball after making 30 runs. He has to go out there. I think that mindset is not serving England well at all. And the county cricket circuit, the level of competition, the style of pitches, the smaller grounds, to translate that into Australia is not very easy.
or India even.
Or India even. India has smaller grounds, but now it's a question mark because see how will India pull up and perform? Um, for me, I can only answer that with a question. The question I will ask the Indian cricketing audience is, who is Mithun Manas? Therein lies the problem that the administration is being managed and governed by people like after Roger Binney, after Saurav Ganguly. If they can produce Mithun Manas, then the direction in which Indian cricket is heading. So I'm not blaming Mithun Manas. It's not his fault he was appointed. But that's the state of affairs. It's the symptoms, not the diagnosis. And that's what I think all cricketing nations can learn from. Look at how West Indies is performing in New Zealand right now. They
Surprising.
are, they are like now, if they get backing, if they now get the support, and they are not treated like they are some, poor cricketing nation. Instead, they are given the respect and given longer series, and they can go there and learn again on those, New Zealand pitches, Australian pitches. I mean, look at what they did in the last series against Australia. So, like sheer athletic talent, sheer talent, but very poorly managed.